John, John, get up there.
Gotta get a big coffin.
Okay, we're recording, but we don't have anybody. What's our guest's name?
Shannon. I cannot believe Alexander.
Shannon, oh yeah. I've met her before.
But after a while, right now, to run the place, most of the stuff is kind of granite. Indian.
I gave Jim your telephone number. He wanted to buy some honey.
They never had it. I mean, they talk a language. You don't know what they're saying.
Hey, you didn't say the sign. I think it's small. I can put my box anyway. You should see. He's around the corner from you, right?
Across the street from the crowd. But you go around. Have you seen this show? This is a Shannon speaker. So where did I meet you before?
I met you at JIDA, the Joint Industrial, before it changed.
Oh, you met me on television.
No, I met you in person before the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah,
That's way back. I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
in Northampton County.
Stanley, of course. And that was on the you showed the Bizarre. Who? Bizarre.
No.
It's on television. Yeah. It's this guy who's based in Texas. And he and his two sons, one's gone, they go all around doing the bee thing. Tearing up houses where people call in. He's got saws and everything. Take the wall down.
I can do that too, but I'm not putting it back.
And going up in trees. They have, I mean, these are.
Who was the speaker last week?
What's that?
Who was the speaker last week?
Trying to remember his name, but he came down to
Okay.
Frederick.
That's what I was
And he is
But
rehabbing the lots in the
we had a vacuum
making
cleaner
the
that
downstairs area, the retail area, and the upstairs
he
area.
approved on it,
Summer run,
right?
like the
Runs on 110. We got to bring a generator.
He likes it down here. He's talking
30-foot hose on it, so we can
he
go
might retire down.
30 feet up in the air.
I've heard that before.
No, I did the same thing. I'm originally from
They go into a bag like dirt.
Chicago.
No, they'll back straight into. We have a design.
I worked out of Salisbury in 1987.
Oh. So you know where now this guy said
I worked in state Delaware all the way across the paper. Bars.
hey,
Oh, okay.
And back then, they started
we all trying to do that.
jumping
Yeah,
in.
well,
Because this guy goes out his way.
Yeah, but I always thought, even back then, you know what, somebody with a little bit of money would be a good idea. And as I started getting close to retirement, I saw it.
doesn't matter. Eggs.
Maybe they said the queen will follow.
And I did, and I came down. Yeah, this is
Everybody was on.
like I said, mostly around big cities.
Bigger than everybody else.
I live in Fort Lauderdale. So
Bigger
I'm
and
just a
heavier.
graduate student.
Yeah, I lived in Miami in 1976.
Unless she's ready to swim. Then they stop feeding.
Will Jim's
I mean, I enjoyed living there, but I didn't want to live there for any more.
It was just another big city for me.
I lived I worked worked at a restaurant.
We're high tech. You're on television.
Lived off the sunset, so I could ride my bike.
Hey,
I
you doing?
rode my bike.
Stand by.
And then I went to
Extension member?
South of Florida,
Extension member?
which I tried to
Yeah, like this.
Everybody's a potential
Like
member.
this.
Yeah.
and I never rode my bike again.
I actually was living in
Introduced me
Toronto.
to God. Well, actually, Rick said, go and knock on this guy's door. So it took me 2 passes to find
And
your
he
house.
did.
And I tracked him down. Knocked on the
See, that's
door.
what boldness will get
And he's opened the door and said,
you. Get you hooked up with
who's
me.
this black guy?
But your own business. Your own business.
No, I was working with Amtrak.
He carved.
Oh.
He carved.
I finished up my last one 2 years in healthcare.
And where?
I was going to Northern Virginia.
It's a bit of a
brought
change.
things that I can pass around.
No, don't bother.
Oh, no.
These guys are great.
Switched over.
That's the way I do it.
Okay.
It's meant for that.
Hey, you got it?
When you buy it, trust me, you gonna bring it out. You're gonna look at it really close.
That's what,
IT and
Yeah,
healthcare.
I made a living out of making
donated that
barrels.
to us.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought it to the show. I didn't know how to buy your stuff like that. I'm waiting for it to show up on the road show.
Well over 5 years.
You know what? I got it. You want me to know it's done. Not quite.
My daughter and granddaughter.
I look around the house.
So they come
I
down
used
and
to say, well, if the house gets on fire, what am I grab first?
I bet they love it.
Well, these got 2 pieces of
No, they like big cities. They
I
like
guess I gotta
getting
get
away.
one of them. Right?
So Shannon, where was this meeting that's in there?
Oh, how was that? You know, one of the things.
The
I
joint
do-
Northampton County Joint Industrial Development Authority, now the Economic Development Authority, was when I was in with the Planning District Commission.
I just rolled off of the, we call it the EDA now.
Yeah.
I timed out and I didn't re-up. I was 80 on Sunday. So I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna do another tour. And they fired Bill Carr.
They did.
Carr, you know. He wasn't doing anything. Carr was always rearranging the chairs in the Titanic. And he wouldn't spend any money. So they fired him. The board of supervisors.
Was he even
That's a
on
jewel.
salary? I thought he was.
No, I mean by fired, I
Kicked
mean
him out.
This big.
Wow.
they didn't renew it.
And
No, I think,
one of the things I did.
I'm not sure if they kicked him off midterm or not.
Most of their utilitarians.
Bill, I just want to make sure I got it right. Rick Hubbard.
Simple Christmas ornaments
Yeah.
I do.
Oh, no.
He had a
That's
Oh, my God.
serious, isn't it?
That's very serious.
You know, somebody gave
Paul,
me a box.
Paul didn't know about it. And he said a lot
What
of
kind
people
of
didn't
box?
know about it.
Yeah.
He's doing okay as far as you go.
Wow.
You know, I don't, he can't be doing too good.
Right, so he was being moved down.
I'm not, I don't know. I forget who told me, but I think Bert is one of
Okay,
those.
Walter also.
Maybe Walter.
I just realized this is recording the meeting. I looked up, it says
That's all right.
recording,
Yeah.
We don't have any Zoom
Well, you
people.
better hold on that,
but it's recording.
Yes, recording.
right?
Well,
Okay.
I got it from somebody.
I looked down and it's just a video of me shoveling food into my mouth. It's funny.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I figured Learn a little bit more about
How long have y'all been in Rotary? How long have you been in Rotary?
I'll be 2 years in online.
Okay.
I've been in.
I'm still trying to decide whether I want to stay with these guys.
She's the one to keep.
Well, you're in good company now, though.
I've been in 4 years.
Chivalry has arrived.
Yeah, they're all good.
And he looked okay.
Yeah.
Bill's
25?
Wow.
Bill's a neighbor. He came up, talked me into joining Rotary.
At least they're keeping it interesting.
I do a lot of biking
Yeah,
too.
they do. They do.
And
Okay.
down here, I love
They're all
biking.
experts
As
on
opposed to
something.
where I work.
Amen there.
You said you-
So,
Down the road.
oh, I wanted to say, this is the
I mean, there's
website.
still danger in cycling here.
Yeah,
it is.
remember my promise to you?
I got hit.
I know, top billing. I told the fellas, I said, normally I don't
Plus-
do this, but since y'all put me at top
And let me
billing,
tell you,
it's the
on our,
least I can do.
let me tell you something else.
We came-
On the homepage of our website, I can show you this now, I think. Because nobody's,
I was heading this way. He was coming this way.
This is good, y'all.
Like,
Got a nice little.
And he got along my lane, so I shot out here to avoid him. He was coming this way, and all of a sudden he turned this way. And hit right into it.
Did you break any bones?
No, I sprained my neck, both shoulders. bruised
Oh
my
my God.
head, big bruises.
Yeah, you tell it, put it down here.
Lauderdale.
I had that thing for 20 years.
She ended up being okay, just minor bruises, sprains and stuff, but
I can tell you it amazes me because I still see it now. I'm riding, and somebody's coming out. They start putting their house. We have two brothers who were hard. Good. And I get off the side of the road. I don't know. I don't mesmerized or lost or something. And start drifting over.
I mean, that doesn't happen. You're kind of naturally drawn to whatever you stare at, but
Yeah.
geez,
Maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
get it together.
I used to do a bike trail up in North Virginia. It's called the WNOD in Washington. It's an old, but it's nice, but it's crowded up there, so you have walkers.
I'm listening.
I have to do it.
You have to slow it
Yeah,
down.
Slow down.
everyone
One
involved.
time I got hit wrapped in it.
I do know for the fish category, and I'll go out there and
Never got too badly hurt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, you tell them that, and then we'll, okay,
I don't know.
I want to show you this,
If I break it, I'll fix it just like
Yes.
it. Right, okay.
I'll fix it out.
Oh, boy.
How long does it take to do that? Yeah. I gotta sit here and tally up the time that I spent on it, because I'm not working on 6, 7 things at the same time. But I would say better.
Ladies and gentlemen, please continue
3 weeks, man.
your lunch. And I'm going to make you announcements. I did mention about Rick Hubbard, and my understanding is, as of today, he's doing okay. He's up in Salisbury in the hospital up there. And it's amazing because the report I got was he had a quintuple, that's five
Look at
tests
this.
in his heart. So being home now, that's amazing. I think somebody may
You're our
have.
special
partial
guy.
Right up in-
being passed around.
Yes, yes.
And we're
And
all
then
gonna
the
try
art
to
raffle.
wish them all the best. All right, also today is Giving Tuesday, as a reminder. So you can go online to Rotary International webpage and you can make your donation. It's today only. This coming Saturday, we have myrtle pruning. So we're gonna prune the myrtle trees along this road right here. And Bill, I think you're sort of,
yeah, I organized it.
yeah, okay. So talk to Bill if you want to show up. What time do people show up?
9 o'clock, right here, right out there.
Okay. So you got it. That orders for Bill Payne, be there.
Be there or be square.
There you go. All right, also, the understanding that I have from Jim is Northampton High School is qualified for a big competition over on the western shore of Virginia. Jim, you want to talk about it a little bit?
For the first time in 17 years, the Northampton High robotics team has qualified for district competition.
Yay.
And the Odyssey of the Mind team has also done very well. Both of them are advancing to postseason, if you will, competition. The robotics team is largely underwritten by the by NASA and by the school district. But they had no funds for the district competition, which is over in Hampton. And just the entry fee is $4,000. And then it's a 3-day competition, and you've got 7 kids, they want to take them all over over there. So the board of directors, they appealed to us just a week ago, and the board of directors in an email vote has pledged or is pledging $500 towards their expenses. It's a pledge contingent on their raising the rest of the money so that they actually make the trip.
Thanks,
I
Jim.
might add, the Northampton County Education Foundation this morning committed $1,500.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so hopefully, they come up with the rest of the cash, and once we know that, the check will be signed over to them for $500 from the Rotary Club, and we wish them all the best. Okay, another thing I want to do, I want to correct a mistake I made last week in talking about Roberta and the coffee house. I think I misunderstood what she and I were talking about. And I won't go into a lot of detail, but just to say she will not be closing permanently. She'll be closing during the time that she's getting medical treatments and so forth. But her plan is, my understanding is they will not be closed permanently. However, she was pointing to me to find another place to meet while the coffee shop is closed for that short duration. And I did ask her, so does that mean a new permanent place? And she said yes. So I took that to mean she was closing permanently, my mistake. But what she was saying was she can't necessarily handle us on a Tuesday anymore, because if you notice the last few weeks we were there, she was all by herself. She didn't have any help. So I think that's what the problem was. And she and I just had a miscommunication. So she will be reopening as far as I know. And of course, we wish her all the best. And Bill, if you'd like, you can come on up and talk to us a little bit about the art raffle and introduce your guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. The art raffle is going gangbusters. We're selling tickets at the Rayfields, and this afternoon I'll stop by Bowie 56. Joan Natale is promoting the art raffle and happenings. We're in the newspaper. I mean, this thing is just growing and growing. So again, I appreciate your support. Each of you have your tickets. Is there anyone here who doesn't have their tickets? Okay, well, one of the exciting things about this was we had to go out and get some art to raffle. And Rick Hubbard said, you know, there's this guy, John Harlow, who lives over in Charrington. Just go by his house and see if he'll help us. So first time I couldn't find John's house. Second time I found John's house. John didn't know me from Adam, knocked on his front door. Welcome, he welcomed me into his home. He showed me all his art. He talked about his art, and I'll let him talk more about himself. Oh, one thing that he might forget to tell you. You're the owner of a 1932 Chevy truck. You ought to see this truck. That was worth the trip over to
36.
36. Okay, 32, 36. At your age, what difference does that make? John, why don't you come up here, meet Rotary, share a little bit about yourself, and we appreciate. On the website, John's contribution is a carved flounder. Did I say that right, Jackie?
Yes, Bill.
Okay, and it's right up there. So, but John brought some other things. John, come up, please.
Sure.
Well, thanks for having me.
Appreciate the top billing, that's for sure. I don't normally do this kind of thing, it makes me very nervous, but this is the least I can do. Get the top billing. I brought a few things with me to show you how I do my work, and I brought a few things with you to show the top world-class quality of work that I'm known for. I've done a gallon rule. Here, hold him, I'll show him around.
No.
I've got him actually stuck to the bottom of this base with a piece of wax. And that keeps it from anyone picking it up and sliding one way or the other, and that's like a disaster when it comes to a bird. But this bird is called purple gallinule. It's found in Florida, and I'm not quite finished with it. Yet to put the details. It's all color now. You can see where some of the individual feathers will show the outline. The whole bird we done with that.
How many hours are in that so far?
On a world-class piece like this, I put a lot into them because of the anatomy that's involved as well. And that's on a world-class level, that's what they look at first of all, is the anatomy. You can't have too small of a beak or bill or head or too, as you notice, too long toes. This bird has extra long toes on it, so it can walk across lily pads. Now, I was thinking about carving a lily pad to go with it, but you don't get any extra credit, they just judge the bird.
So would that go to a museum or to?
Absolutely. If you win, the bird travels all over the country to different museums to inspire younger carvers and to get to spark interest.
What type of wood is that?
This is tupelo gum, and it's actually used to hold the detail. I use a wood burner, or even also use the same thing we drill your teeth with. Called scratching. You use a stone bit. In this case, I use diamond bits, which same thing. It's like I said, and the wood burner, which has a drilling tool that's exactly high speed, very high speed, 3,500 RPMs. Yeah. It cranks, you don't want to hit yourself. I thought about doing my own dental work. I tried to, but looking in the mirror, you're backwards.
It's tough when you're knocked out.
Here's another piece that I'm working on here. It's good for people to see how it's done, what it looks like before I go to work on it. A lot of times in my work nowadays, I'm looking to incorporate the grain of the wood. I don't want to really cover that up. I'm really actually looking to use the color of the wood to match the colors as close as I can to start with. You know what I mean? For instance, the bottom of that is almost kind of yellowish brown. So I'm gonna let a lot of that show through, but the legs are dark. You know, the little pinches are dark. Here's a piece here. I've been cutting leaves all my life. I came from a long line of decoy carvers. I learned how to carve at the age of 9 on the front step of 221 Monroe. I was at home for carrying a pocket knife to school. And my mom said, you know, you can't carry that to school. She said, front porch got 3 days suspension for that. And that is the first 3 days of carving I had. 9 years old. Before my mom died, she gave me that bird that I carved back to me. So that's very cool to have my own work, especially the first one back then. And I've been doing this for, oh gosh, 52 years. Well, 1969 is when I started. That's a picture of, this is a picture of some old work.
Bill.
81. That particular is, I won when I was 17 years old, the open category in sheet ticket Thomas Cove. I'm going back this Easter to do that very same show. And I'm hoping to have that same gallery because I had one when I was 17 years, raised with the same birds. Really hoping to show it, and because it's like a full circle thing for me. So the first things I started carving, and these are still the same things I'm carving. This is a decoy, a fish decoy. This year, again, the world competition is virtual, and it's miniaturized, and they're calling it champagne series. Everything has to fit in the champagne glass. 3.5 inches. And I've got this year's entry. You're gonna love these.
And that one goes.
You gotta go back down.
Wow.
That's a floater. It has to float. See, that's why it's hollowed out. And you should see them all in the tank together. It's like a bunch of rubber ducks. It's very cute. And people from Japan and Canada, New Orleans, down there in that swamp, they can cut birds just as good as we can around here. And it is a true world competition. I mean, there's people, this here is what the Japanese are into now, is fish carving. And that's because they're very detailed people. It's very, I don't want to say in a box, but they're very studious, they're very precise type of culture. And now they're carving the fish in the tank, like the betas, your goldfish, those bubble eye gold. You should see the carvings of these fish. You could swear they were real fish. So this year they're having a decoy competition. This is a big fish. You start handing that one around. And if you notice, there's a little hole in the bottom between the fin, and that is so you can connect it to your minipod. And it floats straight up in that. Well, it doesn't, because it's in, the bottom of it, it floats kind of nose down. I've yet to test it, but I'm going to put it in my own minute trap and see what I can catch. That's for sure. But Japanese have schooled us when it came to the goldfish, little miniature fish. So the Americans have come up with this decoy, which we used to make years and years ago. There's a lot of valuable fish decoys which you can collect nowadays. So there's a resurgence in that. And I can't wait to see who gets that title. That title goes with the ring too. It's almost like a Super Bowl. Here's an item I'd love to.
Okay, we're gonna have to cut you off.
Okay.
So subtle, so subtle then.
Thanks a lot. I can tell you, I know decoy carving of ducks, especially in Maryland and Virginia Eastern Shore, is a big thing, and they bring big dollars too, the finished products. So thank you very much for sharing some of your artwork with us. All right, reminder, we have a highway cleanup on April 16th. There's going to be a sign-up sheet passing around, and Al has. Please add your name. We'll meet at 9 a.m. over at the golf cart parking lot. And again, that's on April 16th, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, we have a new member to hand the pin to. Chip?
All right.
Chip Miller is our newest member. And we want to present him with the Rotary pin. It comes with the pin. If you forget to wear it to a meeting, what's the fine?
$5.
There you go.
Oh, it's only $1.
Only $1.
Only $1.
Inflation.
And that's only if you buy.
$5 if your phone rings.
Okay, Dave Wilcox is also a new member. He's not here today, but we'll present him this pin the next time he's at one of our meetings. And let's see, I think have covered everything. Now, how about
several that present to the membership and they have a week on?
Oh, yes. I'm having trouble remembering the names right now. I didn't list Betty.
Baby, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won last year with that. With a little
We
loon
have one other.
with the babies, yeah. That's how they teach them to swim. Take
Okay.
them off after they
Betty is on the 1 week thing now that she has been approved. And your name's Ken, right? And Ken.
And my wife
Same-
Dolores.
And Dolores. So the 3 people are on the 1 week list of becoming a member. If there's any questions or concerns, that would be emailed or.
What are their names again?
It's
Ken Roberts, Ken Roberts, and Dolores Blackwood,
right, and then,
and Betty, and Dr. Betty Bivens, excuse me.
yeah.
Dr. Betty.
I know, I'm gonna try to say that 10 times fast.
Hey, Chuck,
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna need all the phone numbers if I can get them.
Beware, Tom.
Yes, let me warn you, one warning only. If he gets your phone number, there's a $5 fine if your phone fires off in the middle of the meeting. And guess what he does? That's your one and only warning. Okay, I'll ask anybody if I've forgotten anything that we want to bring up today. If not, then guess what time it is? It's time for happy dollars. I know somebody's happy today. We have beautiful weather out there. You gotta be happy. Who's happy today?
Oh,
Bill.
Bill is happy every
Okay.
week.
I'm not happy.
Oh,
And these are sad dollars. I have 20 sad dollars for Katie and Mark Nunez. And the reason it's $20, I just want to take the time to share with you how much fun Jackie and I used to have with the Nunezes. We would go out for dinner and they would literally throw us out of the restaurant.
Mostly
I'll
Bill.
remind the membership that before the pandemic, that Mark was elected a Paul Harris Fellow. So we have some follow-up work to do and invite Katie back, I would imagine, or however is appropriate, so that she will have that pin and that certificate.
okay, and John,
Yes, sir.
your happy dollars?
My happy dollars?
Yeah.
You got the whole
I thought you asked me about happy. I'm just happy to be here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Give it to
Oh,
Paul.
take-
We're not doing money now.
That's on behalf of John Harlow. And I'm gonna give another $5 on behalf of Rob Harris. Did we introduce him?
No.
Oh,
no.
stand up, Rob, and tell a joke. No, I'm teasing, Rob is just a guest today, but many of you may have known him through Chesapeake Communications, which was the very nice. I thought it. Wonderful. No, they have great customer service. Now I tell you, my wife put them to the test. So we're just fortunate enough to have you here today. Thank you.
Welcome, Rob.
Oh, do we have any other guests? Okay, go
I
ahead.
have $5 happy because of John Hollow. I've been knowing him ever since he was a baby. And seen him to school, seen his work. I've watched him, and he had some training under my wife. She went through a few things, had him doing special artwork. He's always been very good, and I just wanted to give $5 happy on behalf of John, and his whole family. All of them are artists.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of them with big contributions to the community.
So you have ability to pass it down.
I feel like I need to pass it down. That's
Yeah.
why a lot of times I'm into
I'll tell
giving.
you what,
Yeah.
I'm not
Kids
from
are like
here. I lived here many years ago, but I am really astounded by the amount of artists that are down in this neck of the woods, and I can see why. Because this is
Yeah,
just a
draws it.
beautiful subject area to work around.
You married,
So,
John?
thanks again,
You have
John.
children?
Any more happy
No.
dollars? Go ahead, John.
I'm gonna match Bill 20. I knew it. Keep Vine about Katie. She's going through a long, tough time here for 2.5 years, maybe more. And on the bright side, I want to say this, Rob, I love them because I have been the Verizon guy, and they used to have a phone when it rang, and it would say that was that blankety blank from Cape Charles. So when I got Bay Creek and Chesapeake came behind that, I love because you could literally get somebody. They weren't perfect, but they were very reasonable about getting to you, doing things. So I've never been mad to anybody. I'm sorry I'm not here. I've got Spectrum now.
They were not the same.
Go ahead, Bill Strang.
I'll be the
Montane Creek.
third amigo for $20.
Yeah.
Katie.
And Bill Murphy.
I'll match that 20 also for the same reason.
Okay, 20 and 20. Paul.
Stanley.
Stan,
I'll jump in on that also.
20?
Yeah.
Okay, Stan for 20.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
And Chip Miller for 20 or you just have your hand up?
I'll do 22.
Okay,
$2.50 for recovery.
okay.
We have one of these on our.
Okay, Reggie is $10 for recover and his recovery. Any other happy dollars? All right, well, it's my distinct pleasure in presenting Shannon Alexander. And Walter Childs actually brought her to my attention. And I know Walter's worked with her quite a bit, and he's sorry he couldn't be here today. He had some other business to take care of. But Shannon is the Coastal Region Steward and Regional Supervisor for the Department of Conservation, Recreation Division of Natural Heritage. So I got a real impressive short bio, but I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about herself as well as the work she does down here. Shannon?
So nice to be here with you all today. Thank you for the invitation and the warm welcome. And also the happy dollars thing. Never heard that. That's really quite lovely.
Cool.
I want to incorporate that somewhere. But I'm Shannon, so it's nice to meet you all. And I've been on the shore for about 10 years. I was born in Virginia, in Williamsburg. I grew up in Kitty Hawk. I went to school at UNCW. I traveled internationally for like 3 years, making it back to continue my studies. And I got my master's in coastal zone management from a university down in Florida. And then as soon as I wrapped that up, I actually moved back to Virginia. My dad lives in Gloucester across the bay. And I started a kayak eco-tour company there called Bay Country Kayaking, getting folks out on the water, doing special school trips for meaningful watershed experiences. And I came over to the shore to go hang gliding and kayaking. This may will be a decade ago, and I paddled around. I got invited out on boats. I went to organic farms and milked baby or fed baby goats with bottles. And I went up on a hang gliding and saw the beauty of the shore from above. And I was like, I started my business in the wrong place. And so I've then started going back and forth and moved here more or less permanently that same year, a little later in the year, just going back and forth quite a lot, more than I like, across the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. And prior to starting with DCR, I ended up taking a role with the Planning District Commission, the Accomack Northampton PDC, as the Coastal Resources Program Manager, and then they promoted me to the Director of Planning. And Bill was like, where do we know each other? So taking off my more natural resource hat, I got to work on economic development in the region quite a lot, which is outside of my typical realm of comfort, but it was really important, I think, so that I could see the shore from more angles than just the natural resources and conservation, and learn about all the other things going on the shore, from socioeconomic issues, business challenges, housing challenges, and how natural resource management and conservation can be a balanced asset in the region. So in any case, all that's brought me finally to my dream job with DCR, and I started May will be a year ago. Does anybody know Dot Field or Richard Ayers?
Dot Field.
Yeah, so Dot Field was the Eastern Shore Region Steward for 20 years, and she retired last May. And so I didn't exactly take over for her because she would be impossible to take over for, but also that position, she was the one and only Eastern Shore Region Steward. So at her retirement, DCR actually realigned the regions, and so I'm the Coastal Region Steward. So I'm responsible not only for the 9 natural area preserves here on the Eastern Shore, but also 3 across the bay and Tidewater. So all of the coastal region from state line Maryland to state line with North Carolina, and there's 12 natural area preserves. So the Natural Heritage Program, there's quite a lot of divisions actually in DCR. So most people, they hear DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, they think state parks. That's definitely the largest division within DCR, but there's also shoreline erosion advisory services that can give you advice about living shorelines or protections on your coastal properties. There's a bunch of administrative and planning divisions. There's the floodplain management division that just got a massive amount of funds that they're making available in a competitive grant for resiliency efforts. And state parks, I'm missing somebody, but the natural heritage, I like to think of as the conservation division instead of the recreation as much. So state parks is really focused on people and getting people out in nature, and natural heritage is really more concentrated on biodiversity. And so documenting and inventorying rare plant and animal species and their associated habitats. So prior to natural heritage starting in 1986, there was really no comprehensive list of what we had with regards of species of animals and plants and insects and how they were benefiting the Commonwealth and keeping us all healthy and keeping our environment beautiful for our enjoyment and for economic reasons as well. So the first really push was inventorying everything. And we were officially codified to be able to own and manage lands in '89. So when DOT started back 20 years ago, or even before DOT started, I guess, back in 2000, there was actually only, I think, 3 preserves. So back it up a little bit more. In '92, I know there was only 1 preserve, and that's Wreck Island out on the seaside here. Gorgeous, less than 900 acres, give or take, depending on how many nor'easters have come through or hurricanes. And quickly, we did begin to acquire more properties, as did a lot of other state and federal and private nonprofit companies. And that was guided by a bunch of research that was done in the very early 90s that showed which properties and which areas on the shore were most important for migratory songbirds primarily. So it pointed to the barrier islands, it pointed to the little strip of land less than a mile along the coast. So that migratory birds like those habitats more than the central core. All right, I don't know how long I'm having, so I'm gonna shoot a little. And then over the next 20 years, there were an additional 10,000 acres conserved by DCR Natural Heritage. So right now on the Eastern Shore, there's about 12,000 acres of land that DCR manages as natural area preserves. Of those 9, 4 are open to the public, and they have what we call public access facilities, which is not like state parks. There's no restrooms. There's no house with people greeting you or an interpretive center. It just means there's a small parking lot, usually no more than 10 cars can fit there, and that's done with great intention to reduce the amount of people there at any given time, to make sure there's not a significant stress on the habitat and the animals that live there. And of those 12,000 acres, I will say, only about 1,000 of them are upland. So most of them are barrier islands. There's Paramore is a dedicated natural area preserve, and that's huge. That's something like 7,000 acres. So that takes a big chunk of that 12,000 acres right there. And Paramore is still owned by the Nature Conservancy. So it doesn't have to be that the state owns it. You can have a dedicated natural area preserve that's owned by a private person. A citizen can say, I want to dedicate my land in perpetuity and have it protected for the purpose of preserving the beautiful habitat that's here and making sure there's a safe place for a rare series of plants and animals that might be found there. Or it can be purchased by the state. So I've gone completely off script here. just yabbering away, no end in sight. Anyway, let's see. So of those 1,000, a lot of what Dot did was about, of the 1,000 upland acres, about 600 of those were actually in active agriculture for quite a long time. Some of them were starting to get periodically flooded along the coastal fringes. And so she, with the help primarily of the Virginia Master Naturalists volunteers, got those planted with native shrubs and trees, just kind of to jumpstart the successional process. So you can't really plant a forest that's going to be 40 foot tall trees, but you can at least plant some small things that will attract birds who hopefully will plant the trees for you. They'll bring the seeds of the plants they like. And that was her theory. But some of those areas do need a bit of maintenance. So there's a lot of invasive species that have moved in. And the big issue with those that we see is they don't provide a food source for insects at every stage of their life. So I'm going to be hopefully working to get a grant to do some massive invasive species treatment and some native plantings focusing on the 4 public access preserves. Do y'all know what those are? Anybody?
One is here.
One is here. One is in the town limits of Cape Charles. That's probably that might be the smallest preserve in Virginia. It was about 29 acres until about a year and a half ago, and we got another 20 acres. So it's 49.7 acres, I think. So the Cape Charles Natural Area Preserve is 50 acres, give or take a few decimal places there. And we also have down here, not too far, further south on the seaside, we have Magoki Bay Natural Area Preserve, considerably larger and has had a lot more restoration work done because some of it's a little disjunct. So not all of the preserves are contiguous. Some of them, here's a parcel, and then right down the road, we got some more land as well. And going up the road a bit north, I'm sure most of you have heard of Savage Neck Dunes Natural Area Preserve. That one was planted, about 90 acres of that was planted. The field side, the road side of that was planted back in 2004 with AmeriCorps volunteers, as well as it was before Master Naturalists. I think Master Naturalists weren't until 2006. So it was all volunteers doing all the work, thank goodness. And then further up, way up the road, still south of Kankakee on the seaside, is Mutton Hump Fen Natural Area Preserve, which is gaining some popularity. It's a lovely place to visit. Nice walking trails, about 1.5 miles of walking trails there, and you can go out to really close to the seaside there. I think that's Garza Bay. So all right, so that's what we have here.
Shannon?
Yes, sir.
I know a number of state groups work in natural area preserve parks, and so for several years I've worked with Dot Field. What relationship what she's done and you were doing? What is the connection there?
So I essentially took over her role and then additionally tied
You're the
on.
new Dot Field?
I don't say that. There's no new Dot Field. Dot Field will live on. She's gonna be moving to Italy soon, I think. So she'll be living it up out there. But so I did get to take over. I was lucky enough to be invited by the Virginia Master Naturalists to serve as advisor for the Eastern Shore chapter. So I will continue to do that and help with, in the fall, there's typically 15 to 20 folks that go through the 10-week Master Naturalist certification course and then volunteer as they can throughout the year to maintain their certification. There's been over 220 people go through the Virginia Master Naturalist program since 2006. And of those, there's about 125 that are still active.
And there's one who's in this club, and that's Walt Childs.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I haven't seen him in a little while, but he's, I met him actually at Cape Charles Natural Area Preserve when I was there helping Richard, Dot's husband, and also, you know, previous DCR employee, just retired. His first official day of retirement was Friday, April 1st. Big April Fool's joke on me, because I miss him already, which leads me to kind of, we have 22,000 acres of land. Much of it is water access only. Much of it is wetland, especially the 10,000 acres across the bay. There's 3 in Tidewater. I don't want to focus on it because y'all are here on the shore, but I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Virginia Beach area. So it includes, I also manage in Suffolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and even Norfolk. There's no preserve there, but it technically is in my region. And over there, there's 3. There's False Cape Natural Area Preserve, which is also a state park. So the state park is larger than the preserve, but almost the entire state park is also a dedicated preserve, the part that doesn't have the state park infrastructure and the houses for the state park staff. And that is accessed only by walking through Back Bay National Wildlife Refuge. So it's quite the experience. They do have some really nice docks that they got installed. So you could boat there, but it's extremely shallow. So I don't know exactly what the management plan there was from state parks, but it's a beautiful place, partially because it's so hard to get to. And then we also have Northwest River Natural Area Preserve on the Northwest River, and then North Landing River Natural Area Preserve. And North Landing River is actually technically in the Virginia Beach limits, and it was the very first natural area preserve in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it was also the very first one that was open to the public. And then due to understaffing and some illegal activities that were happening there and just an inability to maintain a law enforcement presence there, that it has been closed to the public for many, many years. And one of my charges in my first 2 years is to get that reopened. So I don't have much time. So I'm doing all of that. And then we are hiring to replace Richard. So we're hiring right now. We actually are going to have to re-advertise. So as you all know, it is quite challenging to find staff right now across the board and pretty much every economic sector that you can look at. And we advertised, we interviewed, and it ended up, we couldn't hire any of the folks that we interviewed. So we are re-advertising that starting probably later this week. It's the Coastal Operations Steward, and the position starting salary range is $45,000 to $55,000 a year, full-time benefits, state retirement, all that good stuff. And that position is responsible for boating and equipment maintenance and managing construction grants for removal of derelict structures or debris. We have actually some asbestos debris on Mogoke Bay Natural Area Preserve that was left over from an old farm building. Need to get that out of there. So they would be the ones working with the contractors and making sure that they're on the ground doing things correctly. And then we're also hiring for a technician position, and that's a part-time position, and that their primary role is to kind of be the smiling face at the preserves and also do general groundskeeping like mowing and invasive species treatment and weed eating and that kind of thing. And that's often filled by somebody in their young 20s fresh out of undergrad that has a degree in natural resource management, environmental science, that kind of thing, that wants to get some experience and kind of figure out what they want to do next and learn about the techniques on the ground of natural resource management. If you know anybody, point them my way, because that one's getting advertised right now as well. So that means there's 2.5 people responsible for managing 22,000 acres. So it's very fun. You notice I'm in this lovely green truck towing a mower. And when I leave here, I've got my boots and another shirt, and I will be going to Cape Charles and Magothi and mowing and weeding. So wearing all the hats right now, which is kind of fun, but it's a lot. So I'm very anxious to get some good folks hired. I would love to hire local people. I really tried to interview local people that applied. One, because it's a lot to expect somebody to move to the shore and love it and stay here if they don't have family and friends here. And two, I want somebody who's really familiar with the local waters and can take me to Wreck Island to count nesting pelicans and take me to Parker's Marsh to count tiger beetles. So get me safely around the shore. And as y'all know, the waters here are skinny, there's oysters, and they change regularly. You need to have a local knowledge. And be able to talk to the local people and understand local culture so that you can better interact with everyone here. So hoping to get someone local, but it is not that easy. So we're working on it. If you think of anybody, let me know. Let's see. Another interesting thing. So there's 7 stewardship regions across the state. So there's 7 of me. And we all kind of have to have specialized skills. So the folks out in the mountains don't need to know how to drive a boat, but they do go out spelunking. You know this word? So they're out like in the caves. And in the last 2 years, the karst team that goes spelunking in these crazy caves has discovered, I think, 3 new species of small little amphipody guys in the waters of these caves. And they also discovered, I don't know if you've seen this in the news, the discovery of Petra. Have y'all heard of this? It's like they think it's an American cheetah. So they found these fossilized remains of a large cat. And it turns out it's from the end of like the last ice age. And they had to train paleontologists to go spelunking, to go caving. And it took 1.5 years of intensive training before they could actually go caving because it's very dangerous. And they got in and out. They spent the night in the cave. No, thank you. But it's cool. And they got this thing out, and I think it's at the Natural History Museum, maybe in New York. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty interesting stuff that we're doing across the Commonwealth. And all of the data that we collect ends up going into an international database called NatureServe, and along with every other state. So almost every state, I think there's 2 states that don't have natural heritage programs, and then Canada, all the provinces of Canada participate as well. And so all that cumulative data allows us to know a really detailed amount of information about rare species so that we can ensure, hopefully, that they do not go extinct or become more threatened than they already are. So I was lucky enough 2 weeks ago to go to a NatureServe conference in Pittsburgh, and of all the folks there, they were all ologists, biologists. They were botanists, they were ecologists. I am none of those things. I'm kind of a generalist that knows a little bit of this and a little bit of that and likes to put all the pieces together. And so I was the only person at this whole conference that was in stewardship. It was all these people geeking out over data management. But it was interesting, and it made me realize how unique Virginia is. So I think we're the only state's natural heritage program in the United States that actually owns and manages lands. Most of them are really ologists and really data management people. So all they're doing is inventorying these species. And it was kind of a reality check for them because I gave them some information about how much work we've done with 1.5 staff over 20 years. And their idea is, oh, well, once they have this information, they can buy all the land that's the best land, and they can do this and they can do that. And just kind of gave them a little reality check, like while you're providing this information, maybe it could be reformatted, and you can take these things into consideration because it's good to have lofty goals, but you also need to have an idea of what is possible on the ground. So that was really interesting.
Shannon, before we wind up,
yes,
would you tell people what's the future for the wildlife preserve here?
Sure.
I was unaware you have extra land there. The view down the path is now largely you could rename it Wildlife and Concrete Plant Preserve.
So the Natural Heritage Preserve here in Cape Charles, was actually part of, I think, a SNP. It was like an economic development thing that y'all probably know more about than I do, because I was not really sure. But it was not supposed to be a natural area preserve. It was supposed to be part of an industrial development complex that included some healthy outdoor activity for people that were working in the companies around there. And I think the original plans for that Fujifilm company is, on the original plans, there was supposed to be a sister company on the other side of the really nice retention pond. So the pond in the middle that has the boardwalk is part of the new 20 acres. So that was what was purchased a little over a year ago. And so it includes the pond with the boardwalks over it, and then the land behind that goes towards the golf course that is riddled with all invasive species, wisteria, bamboo. It's a nightmare because it's right by Bay Creek and the golf course that has all these exotic plants. So I don't love it. It's gonna be really, really hard. And wisteria and bamboo are almost impossible to remove. So at this point, it's more of a control it and keep it from spreading. I don't see that the Cape Charles Preserve growing at all because there's no more land around there. But it is a nice little oasis, especially if there are going to be some more trees taken down and more development done around Cape Charles. I have looked into moving the path. So the boardwalk is a really heavy infrastructure. It's over 20 years old. There is only one of me for 12 preserves, and I can't be out fixing lumber every day. And I don't want it to be a health concern or hazard for the general public. So I don't know if the new alignment and how long that's going to be, but I foresee the trail being towards the center of the preserve where you can actually experience nature. And I've walked it. There's a ridge that goes through there, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And it's much more quiet because you have the forests all around you. So I've looked at moving the trail towards the center, but it's a little ways out. It's going to take some money and some time. But that's basically, there's not a whole lot to do other than move the trail towards the middle.
Do you have any connections with the islands of the Chesapeake, Tangier Island, Fox Island, the uppers, which is just north of the main Tangier
Quite
Island?
familiar with Tangier, yeah. I don't in my role with DCR because we don't have a natural area preserve there. Okay. I've been to Tangier before. I've worked with them in my role with the Planning District Commission, but not in this position.
Well, they had one specific species called the man-eating fly on Tangier Island, but I don't think you'd find anywhere else.
I think there's some of those on Paramore too. But we do have a couple of potential acquisitions that might go through in the next couple of years, not right around Cape Charles, around our other preserves. Unlikely that we will get a new preserve. It would likely just be kind of expanding the preserves we have. But there's no annual budget for DCR to buy land. We have to apply for grant funds to purchase land. And that is not part of my role or responsibility. There's a protection team, lands protection team in Richmond. So the only thing they do is they ask me, what would you do with this if we bought it? Oh, more work, thank you. And sometimes I'll go meet the landowner and I'll set up having our ecologists come out to walk around and see what kind of rare species they might have. Just to give you an idea also of budget. So in addition to only having 2.5 people for these 12 preserves, 5 of which are going to be public access once I get North Landing going, each of the 7 regions only has typically between $15,000 and $22,000 a year, not including salary, of course, but that's for, I mean, I just put new batteries in both the lawn mowers, that's for oil changes, that's, you know, for a new weed eater, it's for maintenance, it's for anything and everything you might need, toilet paper for the office, like, so it's a pretty shoestring budget. And I like to think that we do quite a lot, and I'm very lucky because in the last 5 years, the budget and the amount of staff has gone up a lot. And so previously it was 1 person and $5,000 or something. So we're lucky that we have as much as we do. And yeah, I'm excited to, spend the next 20 years working for the shore and working for coastal Virginia and keeping those natural area preserves as natural as we can, given changes that are happening and invasive species. And hopefully what else I would like to do is more organized trips and excursions on the preserves to get maybe a model similar to what the Nature Conservancy is doing with some of the school age children through grade school, and actually work with teachers and get more people out, because some of the preserves, well, I don't want to advertise them with the Eastern Shore Tourism Commission because they get overused and the parking becomes an issue. People start parking illegally on neighbors' property when the parking lot's full and those kinds of things. I do think more interpretive signage that actually lets people know why the places that they're walking around on trails to get to the Chesapeake Bay at Savage Neck Dunes or something, what the erosion is happening there, like why does that matter? Why is this place protected? Why is it special? I think that there's a lot of room for interpretive information, both printed on this at sites. We don't want to get crazy and look like a state park, but just a little bit more touches of interpretive information, maybe some self-guided thing where you just have a little simple number. So I've got some ideas for doing that, and more community outreach and engagement. I think Dot did that a lot through the Virginia Master Naturalist, which I will continue to do, but I've been trying to do things like this today and just kind of let people know who I am, who DCR is, what natural heritage does, where our preserves on the shore are, and why we exist here.
I have a quick question. Quick questions. Having been born and raised in and around cities where there are buildings and there's no such thing as a reserve or preserve, can you tell me what the difference is between the two?
Between reserves
and
preserves.
Yeah.
So I will try. So we have parks, which clearly that's state parks. That's more recreational, camping and the like. We DCR have preserves, which is for conserving and protecting biodiversity. And then the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has refuges, which I would have to look up what the federal code says about why it's a refuge. But they are not interchangeable because the name does matter, and it was picked with a reason to represent the intention of the organization and the mission of the organization. So literally the mission of, in code, the mission of natural heritage is to conserve biodiversity, protect, conserve biodiversity. That's cool, I think that's in the code. Rare plants and species, but I would have to look up federal code for what it is refuge and a reserve is. Sorry.
No problem. I got Google.
I'm sorry.
I have one question.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. What is your relationship with the Barrier Island?
The Barrier Island Center, that's its own standalone nonprofit. I have talked to them in the past about having, when I was with the PDC actually, the planning district, about having some rolling information on their kiosk in the lobby there. I like to go there. I can't get art classes there. But DCR doesn't distinctly have a relationship there. If you have an idea of something we could do, I know they just hosted the Nature Conservancy's delayed 50-year anniversary, and they had local artist Miriam Riggs do some like paper mache boxes and some birds hanging, and it was all photos of all the restoration work in the seaside bays and lagoons for eelgrasses and scallops, and just kind of their work and what they've done in the community over the last 50 years. But that's a good idea. If you have an idea for how we could, partner to get more information out, happy to hear it.
And that's the Browns Mill Preserve too, is part of that Barrier Island.
No, the Barrier Island Center is a standalone nonprofit organization that a few local people, I think including Rick Pelham, came together because they saw a lot of, this is way off my topic, I'm not an expert on the Barrier Island Center, but they saw a lot of the beautiful antiques from the shore that were really culturally significant to the families here, leaving the shore, being bought and going all across the country, and they wanted to have a place where those could stay and live and inspire and educate people.
I think we had a question back there.
At Magothy Bay, that preserve, there's that berm that goes out to the ocean side. How was that created? Why was that there?
We would never do that. So GCR Natural Heritage would never build a berm like that. My understanding is the reason that was built, they actually started backfilling it. They were gonna put high-end houses down there. So there's one thing, and then I think they ended up doing hunting and stuff there, but it was not built by DCR. So when we purchase something that has an unnatural structure and it's been there for a very long time, if you think about it and you put it on paper and you look at how you would dismantle it, and it would cause more harm than good to remove it, then it stays until nature removes it for us. So there's a huge culvert that goes through the middle of that berm that gets narrower and narrower every year. I will not drive my truck across that. I've seen the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service drive across that part, but I would not do that. Sorry. So when undoubtedly a hurricane comes and washes that out, it will not be repaired. It will, nature will let it, be let to run its course. Sorry.
Okay.
I rambled a lot, so hopefully.
I'll token our appreciation of a rotary pen. If you click the pen, you'll see here on the side, it'll scroll around. It's the rotary 4-way text. You're going to hear that recited here in a couple of minutes. But we want to present you with that, and thank you very much. And speaking as a former 15-year skydiver, I could really get into the whole hang gliding.
The only other thing is I meant to bring enough of these for everybody, but I had car trouble yesterday. So my car is in the shop and it had all my stuff in it. But I have I have loads of these that I
leave them here.
Oh, okay.
And
But I'm
we'll make
happy
them
to.
available as people go.
And
Thank
I
you.
have loads of these if anybody wants them too, for the native plant Eastern Shore natives. And I have a bunch of those. I have a whole box of those in the car if anybody wants them.
I like one of those.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna bring this meeting to a close, so if you could please all stand.
I have one thing I'd like.
Go ahead, Bill.
I will pledge next week $5 happy for everybody who joins me this Saturday at 9 o'clock to do the.
Where does he work? Where does he get his money from?
Okay.
You must have a second job.
When?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock,
Yeah,
right here.
Right here,
What day?
Saturday. And bring your cutters.
Yeah. Okay. Anything for the good of Rotary? Anything else? Bill, thank you. All right. For the things we think, do, and say, number 1.
Is it the truth?
Number 2.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Number 3.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Number 4.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And Stan, I'm not going to forget you this week.
We will have fun.
That's number 5. Thank you all. Have a great day.
I meant the only other thing I meant to throw in there was I had some of the data from the economic impact of conserved lands on the shore that I thought y'all might find interesting, and I forgot that. I saw it was in my notes.
Yeah.
I yammered on long enough.